Smith and Yvonne, our youngest daughter, and Kelsey Slide, and I guess only doing 3 weeks of training before you run 10 miles results in a bit of soreness. So.
Keith Smith, Jonas Smith did the Charlottesville 10 miler.
We did with Yvonne and Kelsey Slide. Yvonne Smith.
It was super windy then, wasn't it?
It was windy, a little cold. I've ran that race about a dozen times, I guess. And generally, it's a little bit more forgiving.
Right.
It was a bit chilly. It was a bit chilly.
We have the quintessential weather in Charlottesville, where
Yeah,
we get seduced by a glimmer of spring, only to be pummeled again by winter.
If you were watching or listening to the show, I guess last week I was saying I was having a serious case of
spring fever.
That has gone away.
It's back to hibernation.
It's back to hibernation. Welcome to Virginia. Wait 15 minutes, the weather might change.
Bipolar Virginia, guys. A lot we're going to cover on today's program. Keith Smith in the house. If you follow him on Facebook, you'll notice the same amount of active listings came on the market as listings going under contract and pending.
Yeah. So that's the numbers dropped a little bit over Friday, and I've been really tracking this stuff pretty close. But on Friday, we were talking about, we had 117 active and 109 pending. This 7-day block, this is from today going backwards 7 days, we're at 97, 98, so we're off about 20 on active, 29 on pending on that end of it. But we've been on par, pretty darn close to par, and I look at this religiously. So
it's one of the numbers you track very closely.
I do, and actually I ran some numbers from the lake today. I haven't really looked at that closely, Lake Monticello, for those who are not familiar with the area.
Our live studio audience is misbehaving a little bit.
Is it the same guy that was trying to get in the bathroom?
No, this one evidently is Liza and the father of Liza.
Look at her, she's.
I know. It's the only time I see Judah get.
Are the cameras on?
No, they're not yet.
I'm gonna give her a bone.
Are you sure? Yeah. I think part of the reason she is misbehaving is because of this. Don't you think, Judah Wickhauer? I think so. So Liza's our mascot, and Nicholas Erpe, you know Liza well. She's getting a little frisky right now.
I think we need a Liza cam. We should put like a camera.
She gets the most frisky around Keith. Jeez. Interestingly, she gets the second most frisky around Xavier Yerpe.
Huh? Does he feed her also?
Xavier loves some Liza, and he is a dog whisperer. Nick, wouldn't you say your father is a dog whisperer? Please tell Xavier I said that. The closer knows animals inside and out. So does Keith. We should rock and roll. Let's get the show started.
Yeah, so I owe a text and email to Nick, because I'm trying to schedule them on the show, because one of the things I want to start talking about is recession and stagflation and stuff like that, and these guys are
they're pros.
They're pros and sharp about
Kevin Yancey, good morning. We'll rock and roll. Judah, we're in your hands. Good Tuesday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate, life, and the pursuit of happiness. We are live in Charlottesville, across Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network, and we're presented by Yes Realty Partners. Find them online, yesrealtypartners.com. Keith Jonas Smith, Emily Funk, Christopher Eagle, Michael Plecker, Gavin Sherwood, Jason Taylor. Who am I missing?
Me.
I said you.
Did you really?
Yeah, I said you.
I was making notes.
I said you were the first.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I should not have been put on first. Mrs. Smith should have been put on first.
Our buddy Quentin
Beckham, and we got his full team. We're very fortunate. We got a pretty awesome group of folks working for us.
We got so much we're going to cover today. Kevin Yancey, welcome to the program in Waynesboro. John Yarnalis says you guys need a GoPro on Liza, the I Love CVille mascot. Liza might need a camera. Judah's rolling his eyes a little bit. Oh my goodness here.
Hold it, time out. We've got 2 empty seats.
We could easily do a Liza cam. Liza is our mascot, and she's absolutely in love. She's Judah's dog. She's a rescue from Caring for Creatures, fantastic animal rescue and sanctuary in Fluvanna County. She's phenomenally and absolutely in love with Keith Smith.
Yeah, but I think bribery had a lot to do with that.
He gives her 30 treats every time he's in the
No,
studio.
Mr. Miller.
How many treats do you give her? I'd say 10.
29, but not 30.
There's so many treats. Xavier Yerpe, the closer, who we absolutely adore as well, he also showers her with some love in the studio.
Let's face it, Liza's the only one who really understands me here.
Nicholas I would say my father was straight up a dog at one time. They know one of their own, but yes, a whisperer works for Xavier Yerpe. He speaks dog. Xavier does. He really does. He's a great man and a dog whisperer. But we'll get back on track, my friend. You have a lot of data points in front of you. Good Lord.
I just printed stuff, that's all. No, so I've got this 2020 NAR home buyers and sellers generational report that I've been digging into. I've got some current active stats. What have I got over here? So this is 2019's and all kinds of stuff. I'll probably not get to it. I kind of have to have it because if it ever pops up, I've got some information in front of me. But look, please tune in. Let's ask questions. That's what I love about our Tuesday shows is it's just you and I and guests or viewers or listeners or chiming in, ask questions. I was going to name this Stump the Chumps, but apparently that's trademark. So.
Yeah, it's trademark. Stump the Chumps is trademark.
And let's get involved, please.
Oh, Ryan Ferguson. Jonas Smith says Ryan Ferguson.
Ooh, nice job, Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Jonas Smith. We love you, Yona.
That's why she is the supervising broker.
Jonas Smith is a critical team member for the team.
And I want to give an extra shout out to Nikki Chambliss for covering for me. She's doing a straight Mondays, almost 4 or 5 of them in a row. And it's because I'm in the middle of taking my broker's exams and licenses and testing and schooling and all that fun stuff. So
I'm telling you right now, you're getting some props right now on the show. Nikki, you're doing a hell of a job.
And
really
job.
Maturing into a fantastic broadcaster.
Keith Smith. Funny, her and I were having a conversation about that yesterday, and she goes, yeah, I'm starting to get comfortable, and we knew that was going to happen. She's a rock star, and she is very super comfortable in this environment. So I'm looking forward to what she has to bring in the future to all of us.
Absolutely. All right. So where do we want to begin? Do we want to talk? Do we want to talk numbers here?
I thought we were going to talk about the guy that was trying to get into the bathroom.
Yeah, dude, he was aggressive. He had to go badly.
I'll tell you what. Well, it's fun. It's funny.
Talk about your data points in the garage in the back.
Yeah. Well, so this is not any of this data stuff here, but we're in our 4th year of doing this.
Yeah.
And I've never in 4 years I park at the, what is that parking garage?
Market Street
parking garage. I parked on the 3rd floor. In 3 years plus, I've never parked on the 3rd floor. So I walked away from that going, this is interesting. That means there's a lot more people down here and going on here. And then there's never a line for the bathroom over here. And turns out there was a line for the bathroom this morning. So it's got to be some sort of data point. I mean, we're looking at numbers, Friday going 7 days back and today 7 days back. We're starting to look on par a little bit what's coming on and what's going off. So, maybe this pendulum is starting to swing a little bit. It sure feels that way.
So you have the parking garage downtown Charlottesville completely full on Market Street.
Well, I wouldn't say completely. There was another floor.
3rd floor. Yeah. Oh, is there 4 floors?
There's 4 floors on.
Okay, it's 4 floors.
I was on the 3rd floor.
Okay, so you made the 3rd floor. So that's the first time.
It's a little tricky because the ground is ground.
I always get tricked from that too.
Yeah. So it's ground is ground and 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So I think it's actually, if you count the ground,
5 floors.
5 floors.
So
I call it 5 floors.
Do you take the elevator down or you take the stairs?
I take the stairs.
Yeah, I take the stairs too.
That's I was trying to loosen up.
Did you remember your wallet today?
Oh. Ooh, that's a great point.
Because you got to pay to get out.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Well, we got to be careful with it. The fantastic queen of the Market Street Garage Adores Keith Smith.
She said good morning to me this morning.
Adores Keith Smith.
Made my day.
So why don't we talk the metric that you posted this morning, doing research for Real Talk about coming ons and coming offs, Keith Smith.
Yeah, so I went back the last 7 days, so we get to do this, our little Paragon. We have these market monitors, and you can set it on 1 day up to 7 days, so I like to do 7 days. So, from today going backwards, we're at 97 new and 98 pending on that end of it. So, what I'm looking at necessarily the number, but the balance, right? So, on Friday, it was 117 active and 109. So we had a little bit more come on than go off. We're back on par over here. So I think we're going to start seeing this going forward. This par, same coming on as going off, which makes it healthy. It's not really changing stuff too much on the ground. I can't get into too many details, but I took a client out Friday after I had to go to another appointment, and we're looking at $750,000 houses in Charlottesville.
Okay.
There's very minimal on the market.
So 750K houses in Charlottesville. Where are we looking here? North downtown?
Well, it was all over.
Belmont?
They were all over. We looked at 3 different properties.
Okay.
But one of them, and again, I won't describe the street and everything because it's still active, and I don't want to skew anything one way or the other. But we had 15-minute slots to show, which I thought was very odd.
15-minute slots for the open house, for the tour.
For the tour, we had 15 minutes. So you had to hit there at a certain time, and you had 15 minutes to walk through a 2-level house and a piece of property. And literally, the next 15 minutes, there was a group of people and a real estate agent at the front door. And I don't know if whatever real estate agents may be watching it. To me,
Ray Cadell, let us know your thoughts on that.
So when we do a listing and we do that, we do 45-minute blocks, and it's whoever fills out in 45 minutes, from 9 to 5 is how we fill out the day. But that was a little odd. It was 15 minutes, and it was the client ultimately decided not to move forward with that particular property, but that's kind of the world we're in at the moment. That's a pretty short turnaround time.
John Blair, hello. We love you, JB. We love when you watch the program, JB.
Yeah, that's a bit of an honor, actually.
John Blair's A-plus people.
It's a bit of an honor.
One of my favorite people. And I have a very strong feeling that folks are saying the same about JB and Stanton right now.
Well, he's a first-rate guy.
First-rate guy. Ray Cadell says 15 minutes. 15 minutes is very to the point of how he described 15 minutes. I'm just going to characterize it as BS.
Got it.
For the sake of a talk show here. And I appreciate his frustration. He says 15 minutes is, I'm going to use the word BS, and not in the seller or buyer's best interest.
I agree 100%. And then this brings up a whole thing about ethics and professionalism, but I won't go down that road at this particular point. But I thought it, frankly, to Ray's point, it was almost taken off the list because the people were like, why bother going over there for just 15 minutes? But we ended up going to see it, and I was very.
So what's the thinking?
The thinking of the 15 minutes? I don't know. Maybe Ray, I don't get it.
What's the thinking, Ray Cadell? Yona, what's the thinking? Other agents watching the program, what's the thinking? Justine.
I guess from their perspective is that you would get more people through the home, therefore more offers. I think
it certainly creates a sense of demand.
Yeah,
by
but it could backfire on you. Also, I know what my people it did. They were just like, "There's not enough time," and they're also the relocating out of Northern Virginia, don't have to actually buy this weekend, so they have a little bit of time, and they were like, yeah, we're not gonna deal with that. And the funny thing is the mentality on that is they understand they have to compete, but they're also not gonna over-compete for something.
Paul McCarter says 30-minute minimum.
Yeah, we do 45.
Paul is Avenue?
I believe Paula's Avenue, if I remember.
Paulier Avenue, I believe, right? Avenue Realty LLC, I believe.
I may have, we should let Paul tell us that. We may have that wrong.
Try to keep on top of the agents.
There you go. You're better than me on that. So I think 45 minutes is the right amount of time. And look, you can add some more times to it. And not only did you have 15 minutes to do it, I believe all offers had to be in by Sunday night or something along those lines, which is fine.
So is the home under contract?
I have not a chance to take a look at it, and I don't want to say
Sure.
the address.
Sure. He says yes Avenue. Nicholas says, does the seller have any ability to say 15 minutes is too little? He also says it doesn't make sense to him. Is that the agent's call completely?
No, ultimately it's the seller that makes these decisions. I know, they're coached obviously by their agent. But yeah, I mean, it is the reality of where we're at the moment. Just to play off of what we were talking about with Neil and Sean on Friday. This is the result of a lack of inventory, which is a result of not being allowed to build more units in the region. Right?
Oh, no doubt.
So,
red tape and government bureaucracy.
So this is the result of that. So look, we've kind of beat that to death, and there's nothing we can do about this other than get involved and listen to Neil and Sean and us and try to do a little learning. Interesting stuff. I'm digging into the NAR report that shows the 2022 home buyer and seller generational trends, and we talked a little bit about this on Friday. I wanted to get a little bit more into it, but what I did, as you constantly remind me, and I forget this from show to show, this lives on forever.
Oh, in perpetuity.
And I just did a Google search this morning to prepare for today's show of 2019 Real Talk. Mm-hmm. And I found the show that we actually talked about this.
Okay, was this the one where we were wearing masks and spandex?
No.
Okay, because that lives in the internet forever, and I'm reminded maybe once a month about wearing spandex in front of cameras.
Do tell.
Just people say I remember when you were wearing spandex on cameras. And
well, I have that on my screensaver.
That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
We're at Keith Smith's screensaver at home, Judah Wickower.
No, I didn't. Don't put him involved. It is me and you.
Oh, okay.
It got nothing to do with him.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. So questions are coming in, but finish your thought.
Yeah. So just to put it, we predict this. You and I talked about this 3 years ago, how the trends were going to go, and we're not any soothsayers or folks that oracles of any sort. We just read a lot of data.
Yeah, we read a lot.
We read a lot.
Soothsayers and oracles.
You like that, huh?
I love it.
Let me see. Hold on a second.
Hey, the coffee's kicking in.
Let me see if it gets. Let me see. Cheers. Let me see if it gets better. Soothsayers and oracles.
That's the first time soothsayer has ever been mentioned on this network. That was great. But to your point, we have voracious appetites for the spoken and written word. When we leverage that knowledge, it allows us to make predictions that oftentimes come to fruition.
Well said. Yeah.
Would you not agree with that?
Yeah. We're surely not geniuses. At least I'm not. So. Look, so 2019, according to NAR, which were really 2018 numbers, right? So you understand when we look at these 2022 numbers, they're really 2021 numbers, which is really interesting because it's the first full year of stats that was under COVID. You're smiling. So
Neil Williamson's watching. He's just shared a backpack. Is it GIF? Is it GIF? Which one is it, Judah? I always get that one confused. I just shared a Batman gif of Batman doing the John Travolta dance with the eyes like this, and Batman's in spandex. I love Neil Williamson. He also shared 2 fantastic pieces of content from the Free Enterprise Forum. Those are in the comments section of my Facebook page. Neil, your show on Friday with Sean was just absolutely dynamite.
I'm going to buy and put in this seat an actual seat belt in it because Sean was on fire.
Oh, you put the photo on screen. Look at the screen of Batman and Robin on screen. Robin's mask does not fit his
Can I talk
eyes.
some numbers, please?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm just getting distracted. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Keep it up there, Judah.
But that's no fair. I can't see any of this stuff.
You can, but the last time we tried to do this for you, you got a little distracted.
Squirrel.
Yes. Yona says it's terrifying that Jerry. Yona just, I love you, Yona. Oh, I'm laughing hysterically. Yona just put in the comments section, it's terrifying when I look at this computer screen of Batman and Robin at home. She said terrifying, ... I'm crying.
I think it should be on my business card. But
I'm crying.
nobody wants to do that. Okay, guys.
Oh,
2019.
Yona, you just made my day, Yona. Go ahead, Keith. I'm sorry.
Thank you, honey. 2000. Come on, let's pay attention.
I am trying. Your wife is hilarious.
Yeah, who knew, huh?
You're
Who knew
hilarious.
Austrians were funny?
Go ahead.
2019, the total number of millennials, so that's including the younger millennials, which is 21 to 28, and the older millennials, which is 29 to 38, made up 37, this is nationwide numbers, made up 37% of the buyer pool, right? 2021, which is really 2020 numbers, right? Same age groups was 43%. So we've been up 6%. So we've been predicting this for a few years. I'm trying to be serious, and
I get it.
you're not.
I'm sorry. I'm focused. I'm really good at
So
it.
hey, Judah, how you doing
I'm
today?
really good at it. I'm really good at it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But the point I'm trying to bring out is that due to our reading, a ferocious reading, that's another big word, we're kind of in front of this, and I'm seeing this, if not next.
Voracious.
Yeah, see, look at that, I got that wrong.
And it's an adjective.
Huh?
It's an adjective. So I think you used it there as an adverb. And you want to use it as an adjective, but I digress. I apologize.
So
I
you're now
digress.
just making it in front of me because
I digress. I'm sorry. Finish your thought, because it's a good one, and we got comments coming in fast and furious.
yeah. So I want that's the one stat, and literally this thing is 200 pages long, and I've been digging into it. So we'll kind of trickle out some information. We've been doing this almost every April for the last 3+ years on that end of it, and one of the things NAR does a lot of things well, and a lot of things great. Its stats department is off the charts.
Yeah, absolutely.
it is what I dive into on a regular.
You love stats. Me too.
Well, it's just history repeats itself, right? And if you can take a look at history, you can go ahead and move along a little bit. So I got to move things around a little bit, but so 2019. What I wanted to take a look at is what type of homes were purchased in that same millennial group. So in 2019, 81% bought of the younger, that's just 28 and younger, bought single-family detached. And in 2019 to 29 to 38, bought 86. I got to switch papers a little bit here, so I can make sure that I am not misquoting some numbers here on this stuff.
We'll get to these comments here in a matter of
Yeah,
moments.
just give me 1 minute, guys. So 2020, that younger millennial was 85%, and the older millennial was 87%. So the point I'm trying to make here is that single-family detached have been inching up on what the millennials want. And I think at one point in time, so many years ago, everybody was thinking the millennials were only going to buy urban property.
Yeah.
And that's really not what the numbers are showing out there.
And that historically has been the case.
Well, again, I'm trying to bounce among a couple of reports here, but the townhomes were this report were 7% and 6% respectively, the younger versus the older millennial. Duplexes were 2% both age group on that end of it, and back in 19, just so they can get a perspective on it, the younger millennial was buying 10%, so it's a little bit of a drop. So it just seems that this the market is moving towards single-family detached. I don't know what kind of impact this is going to have on this mixed use, but
We
everybody.
know that the builders moving to single-family detached,
Well,
almost forced to.
but they haven't though in the local market. If you take a close look at that, the attached product, the townhome products, are growing, and that again, these are national numbers, guys. So locally, I think a lot of it has to do with what's getting approved and the cost of dirt, right? And I think you'll start seeing some gravity. So I don't have a lot of local data on what's being bought. I'm going to work on that for Friday's show, but I just felt like this would be a good springboard to see what the feed has got to say. And
What do you guys think? Put it in the feed here. Kevin Yancey, we'll get to your comment here. Paul McCarter, we'll get to your comment here in a matter of moments. So let's go to the King of Waynesboro, Kevin Yancey first.
thank you, Kevin, for the kind words. He's we've never met. I'd love to meet the man. He said some kind things about me, so thank you.
Lives in Waynesboro, King of Waynesboro. He says there are 4 to 5 new construction homes in Waynesboro. The
Yeah.
lowest is $319K and it goes up to $359K. All are builder grade fixtures, laminate counters, and stainless front appliances, and none have refrigerators. Sad when entry is 200 square feet. One's sad when the entry point is 2,000 square feet and one is 1/10 of an acre,
And not a refrigerator.
and no refrigerator, and builder grade.
Yeah, so
Explain builder grade to everybody.
Yeah, so it's just it's a term, it's entry level finishes, entry level countertops, flooring, cabinetry, that kind of thing. It's I prefer the term entry grade versus builder grade, but it's the same kind of thing, and you start climbing up from there. But we also predicted this, right? We predicted this 3 years ago, and it's funny. I very rarely go back and watch shows, and I actually started doing that. The last 30 days, I've been going back and looking about stuff that we talked about in 19 and where we are now in 2022 and all that stuff. But we predicted that was going to be an uptick, and you're going to see some more out there. And I'm not sure that gas is going to have a huge impact on that. I really, if you listen to what I said in 19, I predicted when gas got to $4, the Waynesboro market was going to evaporate, and man, I was wrong. That is completely not the case, and I'm not really sure why it isn't, but historically, that's what happened out there, and I think a lot of it is
Lack of inventory.
well, it's a lack of inventory.
More people moving to the area.
I think you're starting to see
The zoo mentality.
the Zoom mentality. You're starting to see a little bit more cash in this, not necessarily cash buyers, but in 2019, they didn't. Most folks or first-time buyers anyway, or millennials, didn't have enough. They didn't put much more than minimal cash down. You're starting to see a little bit more cash down because it makes their offers a little bit more attractive on that end of it. But yeah, I think you're going to see more building going out there. It's got all the right checks, all the right boxes as far as infrastructure goes. And I think, as we talked about more than once, the growth, the steady growth of the EV market might impact that a little bit.
He says it's also a reflection of folks not being able to afford Charlottesville. We'll add Albemarle County in the mix. Kevin Yancey, good questions and good comments right there. He also highlights these homes have carpets in the laundry room. He's highlighting
Laundry room.
Yeah.
Really?
He's highlighting
gotta make a note of
the entry point nature of the homes.
Yeah.
And the fact that Waynesboro, essentially Waynesboro starter homes are now in the mid threes.
So of the numbers I didn't run, which was Waynesboro, right? So, but I'll take a deep dive into Waynesboro for Friday's show on that. Thank you, Kevin.
Daniel McDougall watching the program. D-Mac, we love when you watch the show. He says when Waynesboro got a target before Charlottesville did, it changed the game.
Well, it's also has a Lowe's and a Home Depot
Oh my gosh, it's blowing up.
right
Kevin
next
Higgins.
right next to each other. By the way,
In fact, let me see if I can find Kevin Higgins. If you're watching, please understand that I very much appreciate you watching our shows and giving us fantastic perspective constantly on the program. Kevin Higgins shared this via direct message. about Waynesboro. Here's a brief rundown of some of the coming soon businesses to the city of Waynesboro. This is from the king of Greenwood himself, Kevin Higgins. Tropical Smoothie Cafe, expected in May in the Waynesboro Town Center. Ollie's Bargain Outlet, expected in 3 days on West Main Street. Popeye's Chicken, expected this summer. Chipotle, expected this summer. Aspen Dental, expected this summer. Sheetz, expected this summer. A wine bar called the City Foxes, expected this summer. Burlington Coat Factory, expected by the fall. A new restaurant in the former Tasty Freeze, expected this summer. Another restaurant in the former Ruby Tuesdays, expected later this year.
So why is that?
I mean, the big brands, you and I both know this, the big brands do not open locations without doing tremendous market research.
That's exactly right.
And these big brands like the Chipotles and the Sheetz and the Burlingtons, they have so many data points they utilize before opening. And they see that this municipality is blowing up with people.
So the last word is exactly why I said what I said. So, you talk to certain folks and certain staff, elected officials, whatever you want to call it, or the folks that potentially oppose growth, residential growth, that, it's this chicken and egg thing, right? So you're never going to get these businesses, you're never going to get these employers, right? Even though unemployment is technically at zero, right? It's non-existent at this particular point. But they won't come out there unless the rooftops are there. The rooftops are what drive that. And what I would love to ask Kevin, and I'm not an expert in Waynesboro by any stretch of the imagination, but does Waynesboro and Augusta County have a meals tax?
So Kevin Yancey, help us here. Kevin Higgins,
Please.
help us here.
Please.
Please.
Either Kevin, please.
Yeah,
Help
anybody
us
who
out.
knows Waynesboro. Ask your question again.
Yeah, so does Waynesboro or Augusta County have a meals tax? That they have, what is their business tax? So what I'm looking for is what is their revenue stream, they meaning the jurisdiction, right? The revenue stream from these particular businesses. And the reason I bring it up is I'm trying to offset, what housing and commercial come together and try to help the tax base. The other thing is and I'll do some work for Waynesboro for Friday. It looks like we're setting up Friday's show already.
Yeah, I love that. Don't you? How the show
Oh
shapes
man,
itself?
I just love it. Because what I need to do is I need to take a deep dive, and Neil probably can help us with that. Are they doing a tax increase, right? Are they doing, what does their budget looks like? What does their scenario, from that perspective look like? And maybe we can look at what they're doing versus what some of the jurisdictions here are doing and see if there's any comparison.
Augusta County meals tax is 6%. Ray Cadell.
Okay, so there you go.
Thank you, Ray Cadell.
Did he say 6%?
6%.
That's actually pretty healthy.
Well, it's a good chunk. I think the city of Charlottesville, Neil Williamson, help me if I'm out. Mayor Lloyd Snook is a proponent of bumping the meals tax in the city of Charlottesville half a percentage point, 0.5%. And I believe that will take it to, Neil, 6.5%. Free Enterprise Forum, Neil Williamson, can you confirm that if you could?
And the other thing is does Augusta or Waynesboro have an additional sales tax that just comes to them, right?
That's another good question.
Some jurisdictions.
Ray Cadell says Waynesboro is 7%.
Yeah.
Kevin Yancey confirms.
Ray, thank you, buddy.
7% meal and lodging tax from Kevin Yancey.
So out of that list, I jot down a couple of things. You have Popeye, looks like 3 or 4 different restaurants that was on that list. That there's going to be somewhere between 6 and 7% of revenue coming in to do that. And if you think about that, if you go over there and you go over to the Chick-fil-A, forget about, it's just always a line. So that has to be generating a tremendous amount of money. And I don't know where, let me be interesting if they have an additional sales tax. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you ever go over to the other side of the mountain to buy something that you can get here?
Since we've moved from the urban ring, 5th Street Extended Redfields to Eastern Albemarle County.
You go to Zion's Crossroads.
Yeah, we go to Zion's Crossroads. Zion's is so close to the Keswick area.
And it's interesting you should say that because I've always been a huge proponent of of Zion's Crossroads. I think it's the next thing. And part of the reason I kind of said what I said about rooftops, right, in business. So there's a lot of discussion going on, particularly on Fluvanna County side of the border of the county line, is they're really leaning towards businesses only, right? Well, that's great, but if there's no place for folks to live, you're not going to get too many businesses, because that's one of the metrics they're going to look at, right? And it's also interesting, I was trying to get Chick-fil-A to come out to Zion's Crossroads, and their numbers didn't work.
Really?
Didn't work.
I wonder if that would change now.
Well, in fairness, that was before...
That's what I'm saying.
That was before Johnny Orales and El Mariachi went out there.
And they're crushing it.
They are crushing it, and I love Johnny to death.
J.O.'s watching the program. Johnny Ornelas, we love you, homie.
Yona and I were in Richmond last week on a market. We attended a seminar or a convention, for lack of a better term, talking about market trends and where things are going to be in the next years. We tried to do
Stopped
that.
at El Mariachi?
I tried.
Oh, it was so busy.
Line was out the door. God bless them.
Muy bueno, chico.
I was so happy for them. This was a...
Sounds like El Mariachi needs location number 2.
well
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Sounds
Maybe
like that
3.
might be percolating and circulating as we speak right now.
Yeah. So how about them Mets?
It's very rare that the distinguished gentleman is at a loss for words over here.
You mean stuttering?
Yeah, very rare. Kevin Yancey, 68% of 2022 budget is real estate and personal property taxes. 68% of 2022 budget in Waynesboro is real estate and personal property taxes. That's a very good statistic. We got a gentleman that's walking in here unannounced into our studio, a viewer and a listener.
Could it be a good guest? I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe he might do better
The
than
live
Smith.
studio audience might be expanding over here. Johnny Ornelas.
Let's go back to that 68%. That's an important stat. Why do you think that's an important stat?
Because it's a huge chunk of the budget.
No.
What?
Actually, it's a great number.
Talk to me about that.
So what that means is over 30%, unless my math is wrong, over 30%.
32%. Your
Yes.
math is right.
So that would be over 30%.
Yeah, your math is right.
That's this many, right?
Yeah, that's not many.
Over 30% of their budget, assuming, we're on the right.
It's not regressive tax tactics?
We're all on the same page here, but that's the magic number, and that tells me that side of the mountain is getting it right. It's been getting it right for a while, and Neil will probably correct me if I'm wrong or agree with me on this. The magic number a jurisdiction wants to hit is about 30% of their revenue coming from other than real estate. Right? So if they're at 68%, so they have...
68% is, he says, real estate and personal property.
Okay. Well, so again, 68% real estate or personal property. We've spoke about this numerous times. You can't really separate the two, because everybody's got a car, or hopefully, if they have a car or 2 cars or whatever it is, and particularly that side of the mountain, they probably do. That means over 30% of their local budget that isn't coming from the state or the feds, right, is coming from all the stores you just listed, all the commercial, all the industrial that they have on that side of it.
Now, what Waynesboro probably doesn't have that Charlottesville and Albemarle County has is the tourism dollars.
Correct, but they also got the meals tax that are tapping onto it. So I don't really know how much of the meals tax is rolled into the 30%. The point is and Neil, if he's still watching, I can't recite these numbers, but he can. Pick Fluvanna County. I think it's in the 90s. 90 something, I believe it's higher than 95%. 95% of Fluvanna County's local tax dollar comes from rooftops. Why is that?
I mean, because you have very limited tax base.
No.
Your tax base is essentially real estate. I mean, where else is Fluvanna's revenue going to come from?
That's the point I'm trying to make. And
you don't have diversified real estate streams.
Well, you don't have a diversified income streams on the taxes. And, that's the reason why I've been pushing for 3 decades to get water to Zion's Crossroads, right? It's hopefully going to be there shortly, next year to 2 years on that end of it. But I would be really interested, and Neil, I'm sure Neil wrote a white paper on this. I just can't recite it. How much each of the 6 jurisdictions in the car footprint of their tax base comes from rooftops versus what I'm calling commercial, but that's kind of everything else, right? Meals tax. business.
Yancey says, make sure you highlight this. King of Waynesboro, assessments have averaged a 12% increase in Waynesboro.
Well, that's because prices are going up.
Yeah.
That's just going to proportionately rise on that end of it. But it also means that 68% that's tied to that 12% increase. That means they're receiving more capital, more revenue in on that. I'd love to take a look at that in a deeper dive in their budgets.
Jason Howard, you've mentioned an 18-month to 2-year runway to build in Albemarle County just for permits from the county. Is the regulatory burden lower in the Waynesboro market?
Yes. That's it. Yes.
And you know.
Yes, I do know.
Yeah.
That is it's substantially quicker. It's also substantially let me put it this way. This information is about a year old, so something may have changed because it's been a year since I've actually was involved in a project or anything at this level on the other side of the mountain.
This is where he highlights the production builders are heading to that side of the mountain.
They have been heading to that side of the mountain. Now, some of the bean counters for these larger production companies are starting to pull back a little bit. I think they're a little concerned about what this time next year is going to look like as far as volume goes. The real estate market isn't going to have an implosion or have a time of time of great
unpleasantness.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Right? That's just simply not going to happen. And the reason I know that this 1.5 day session I went was all full of super smart folks, of economists and so forth and so on, and that nobody's predicting that. There'll be a balancing without a doubt.
Do you agree with this comment? Fluvanna County can't find an identity it aligns with from a tax-based standpoint.
Oh man. Should I get myself into trouble?
I mean, you always do.
And maybe I should start changing that.
I figured that was a topic that you would be passionate about.
So, Fluvanna County, it's interesting. The whole region is a little bit like this. It's kind of like that 18-year-old person who's in high school, right? Right?
Keep going.
They think they know what they want to be.
Hugh Smith dropping similes over here.
Huh?
Similes. Keep
no
going.
idea what a simile is.
Like or as. Something that utilizes like or as a simile.
You're using those fancy words. Stop it.
Fluvanna County is like an 18-year-old.
It's kind of like an 18-year-old, right? They think they know what they want to do, but they really don't.
Okay.
Right? And everybody thinks back to when they were 18 years old. They thought they were the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they start hitting their mid to late 20s. Life hits, and then you realize you're not as smart as you think you are.
And you realize that mom and dad were maybe right all along.
Mom and dad were right all along. You hit 60 and you realize you're really not smart at all, and at least you thought you were. But that's kind of where Fluvanna County is a little bit, in my opinion. So they're kind of, and they can't go backwards, right? That 18-year-old kid can't go back to be the 8-year-old kid playing in Little League. They have to move forward. When Lake Monticello was built, and I was just looking at some stats this morning on that. When Lake Monticello was built, keep in mind when that was built, there was no zoning ordinances. They actually that was built in 68 and 69. Zoning didn't come to Fluvanna County until the mid-70s. They actually had to create a zoning to wrap it around Lake Monticello to go ahead and do that. But that's 4,500 lots. When that started getting built, at some point in time, there was going to be a house on every lot. And that was going to have a huge impact on the growth of Fluvanna County. And Fluvanna County, is not going backwards. It's not going to get recession. That's the recede back to that 8-year-old kid. What it was when I first went there in '87. Some think it's good, some think it's bad, but the reality of it is, once that subdivision was built, you were going to end up where we're going to end up. Is that making any sense?
That's making sense. That's making sense right there.
But it's kind of like that 18-year-old kid that thinks they know everything, but don't, and really don't know what they want to be when they grow up.
So comments, Fast and Furious here.
Probably made some Fulvana friends.
I don't think you were good. Paul says, how do you feel about no appointments and first come, first serve showings?
Yeah, I feel, look, at some point, all of this is going to change, right? And at some point, you're going to have to raise your level of professionalism in our industry. And, that kind of stuff, man, I just don't know if we're really representing our buyers and sellers.
Explain to him what he means by that.
So how can I help Jerry Miller and Mrs. Miller buy a piece of property or sell a piece of property if I've never seen it? If we've never actually put hands on it. And I know we've been talking about metaverse, and I know we're talking about virtual showings, and I know we're talking about all that stuff. But I will tell you, of this client I took around on Friday, it was funny. We saw a half a dozen properties, about pretty much down the middle. Half of them were like, oh my God, this is better than the pictures. And the other half was, oh my God, this is worse than the pictures. So pictures can say 1,000 words, but there's nothing like actually getting in and touching it and feeling it and smelling it and getting in and looking at the property. That's where we really bring our expertise. It's one of our levels of expertise of our trusted advisor in the process. So, it's. I'm not a fan of them. If my client wants to do that, I'm going to advise the pitfalls of it on that end of it. And if they still wish to do it after we've done that a couple of times, then we'll proceed with it. But as a rule of thumb, I'm going to advise why I think that's a mistake.
Good stuff right there. This comment's come in. Lake Monticello was not originally designed as a 4,500 unit lot subdivision.
That's not true.
I mean, he would know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Whoever said that.
Kevin did.
Yeah, Kevin.
Because you developed.
I developed
600 homes.
I actually. So Kevin, with all due respect and love for you, it was always a 4,500 lot subdivision.
That was the plan all along.
That was what I think Kevin might be thinking, and this would be correct. The original intent of it was a vacation community. Right, it was intended to be. I've been living there since 1987, Kevin. So, and built 600 houses in there. So when I first moved there was only about 600 homes in it. So there was always, from 87 anyway forward, always 4,500 lots. But it was originally designed as a vacation community. Matter of fact, the acres, which I bought the last 150 acres.
You know the acres well.
Inside of, and I developed it. And inside of Lake Monticello proper, it originally was supposed to be an airport. And the intent was, back in the 68, 69, 70 range, is folks would actually fly in from Northern Virginia to it. But if you take a drive around and look at some of the older homes, there are these classic vacation kind of homes. And then it grew like all these subdivisions do. They kind of change over time, right? It became... Back when I moved there in 87, that's why a lot of people have Yankee accents there, it became a retirement community for folks out of the Northeast.
You haven't been able to lose that Yankee
You know why the gates are there, right?
Yeah, to keep the damn Yankees out.
No, keep them in.
Keep the damn Yankees in.
Keep them in. Then it became a...
He says, Kevin, so definitely loved the comments that you do with the show. I would say with Keith, you're speaking to a Lake Monticello expert here. He says, did the original design never include anything outside the gates?
No, it included. It didn't get built. The inside area got built, but the outside sections was the original platted. And if Kevin ever wants to buy him lunch, I've literally got the original recorded plats from 100 years ago.
At your house?
No, but I got them.
You got them. Vanessa Parkhill, hello. Christopher Eagle, hello.
Yeah. But the history of Lake Monticello is pretty interesting. It's been through quite a few iterations. Thank you.
Yeah.
Iterations on that end of it, and it has now become a little city.
Oh my gosh!
Basically.
It's the biggest rooftop neighborhood in Central Virginia.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
it is. Forest Lakes is 2.
Yeah, in our
Old Trail
region,
is 3.
In our region, for sure.
In Central Virginia, yeah, I mean, it's massive.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, well,
What
most.
is the tax base? This has come in. How much of the tax base of Fluvanna County is Lake Monticello?
I'd have to look that up. I believe it's either 12 or 14,000 people live there now. I believe that's the number at this point. I may
And
have
how many live in Fluvanna in totality?
27, 28, so approaching 30 odd. So it's roughly half, plus or minus a few percentage points.
That's
But-
substantial.
Yeah, so it's a really neat place. I mean, we raised both our children there. You've got lake, you got golf, which I don't play. Multiple parks. We loved it. Still love it.
Yeah.
It took me. Let me see. I dropped off my youngest daughter at the show this morning from my house.
At the airport. That's
At
what
the
he's
airport.
saying. At show.
From my house to the airport took me about 40 minutes, 42 minutes.
Can you think of any other county in Central Virginia where one neighborhood is half the population?
I can't, but that's the reason why the reason I track Lake Monticello closely. One is my back door.
Okay, and I'll follow up this and get out of your way. How does the lake dominate from a voting standpoint and from a policy or topics that Board of Supervisors have to address standpoint? Because I would think that if 15,000, 12,000, whatever the number is, votes as one block,
Well, that's total people. I don't think that's a number of voters, right?
okay, because there's kids
Yeah.
and non-registered.
Yeah. So great question. I've been working on bringing Tony O'Brien and Chris Fairchild in. These guys will be able. These are Board of Supervisors for Fluvanna County. They'll be able to tell you that. It used to be before redistricting, the original redistricting in 2000, Lake Monticello was cut into 2 districts. Now what they've done with the district lines is they've each one of the districts have a bit of a portion of Lake Monticello. Tony has the Ravenna, which is the lion share of it, but they've kind of redrew the line. So each part of Lake Monticello is a little bit, and I will tell you, in 2000, I got gerrymandered out of Lake Monticello.
Explain that to people.
So what they did is they took the acres and put me in the Scottsville district. The Cunningham district to be exact. And I used to have to drive to I still do, drive to Scottsville to vote. Actually, they've changed it now. They put a registrar in right next to the Food Lion. So that kind of tells you a little bit about how the central of Lake Monticello has become. The registrar's office is now by Food Lion. So actually, I can go to the registrar's office to vote now. But Yona and I do go to Scottsville, not Scottsville, the town of Scottsville, but they call it Scottsville out that way. And Antigonish, exactly.
More coming in on this. Daniel McDougall, DMAC, look for the greater Zion's Crossroads area to play a much more significant role over the next 5 years in terms of housing.
Absolutely. But it's interesting, so the Planning District Commission is working with Louisa and Fluvanna to create a growth area plan, what they call a small area plan, on how this growth is going to look like it. But if you take, and Chris Fairchild said this, and if you can tag him, that would be great. But if you take a look at the growth area in Fluvanna County versus Louisa, we don't have a lot of land in the growth area. It's actually pretty limited in the size of what you can put in there. So there's going to have to be a partnership between the 2 jurisdictions. But look, there's a reason why, I think it was 10 years ago, but whenever VDOT did this, they built this Divergent Diamond interchange. And make a long story short, that funnels the same amount of traffic around a traditional 4-leaf clover intersection. And the reason they had to build that one, by the way, is they didn't have the right of way to do it, right? But in any event, it flows a tremendous amount of traffic. So the planning is there, the growth is there, but you're 100% right. We've been calling this for years now, and it's about ready to happen.
This is a great comment from Kevin Higgins, the king of Greenwood, watching the program. Kevin Higgins says, downtown Waynesboro is a strip that can replicate Charlottesville's downtown mall easily. It's 5 minutes from the inn at Afton at the top of the mountain that will one day be replaced. Downtown Waynesboro is also less than 10 minutes from Western Albemarle and Nelson, the homes of weddings. There are 0 late-night options in Western Albemarle outside of Far Downers in Crozet, and hotels do not exist there. Waynesboro also has an interstate and a highway, Route 250, that takes you directly to it. Waynesboro is about to get the tourism dollars in a big way in the form of lodging, dining, and entertainment from weddings. On a side note, ask yourself how Waynesboro pulled Home Depot 15 years ago, and Charlottesville or Albemarle County has not. Their business development approach is for real. I can offer a little perspective on Home Depot.
Well, that's the reason why 32% of their tax base comes from other than that they saw it coming. The other point that mentioned to Kevin of the growth of Augusta Medical.
Oh, absolutely.
There's also a physician, physician assistant. What's the second thing to a doctor that you can go see?
A PA.
PA.
Yeah.
There's a PA college out there that's attached to that, Augusta Medical. So they're growing Augusta Medical, and if you talk to some of the folks out there,
They got the Amazon coming.
so if you talk to some of the which I have, some of the planning folks from the county and the city, their number one concern isn't schools, isn't highways. It's me. It's taking care of the people from my age up. It's the medical component and the impact that will have on their systems. That's what they're, at least in those conversations, they've been focusing on.
And to add, Kevin, on the Home Depot, and for all those that are watching, Home Depot tried to come to Albemarle County. They got in a beef and a squabble over their sign. Home Depot was pretty fixed on not changing their sign, where Albemarle County was like, you are going to change your sign if you're going to open a Home Depot in the county. And lo and behold, that sign squabble led to Home Depot not coming to Albemarle County.
So, is Neil still watching?
Neil Williamson is.
Yeah, so I would love to get some data from Neil, and I'll have to dig it up for the show on Friday, because I'd love to see where Albemarle County is in this ratio of this 70-30 split. That's what everybody's trying to shoot for. Where how much is rooftop taxes versus business taxes, and that of course brings up the specter of does UVA pay, doesn't it pay, that kind of conversation. But I'd love to take a look at that, and I just love when the show does this. Of all this data that I pulled, none of it is Waynesboro, but I will be prepared on Wednesday for that.
He adds King of Greenwood, and UVA has a specialty in primary clinics there. One is right off the first Waynesboro exit by the Home Depot.
So does Zion's Crossroads. A lot of folks don't know that, but there is a UVA specialty clinics out there, as well as Martha Jefferson on that end of it. And you take a look at it. It's growing. It's all on the Louisa side, right? It's growing because they've got the infrastructure, they've got the water, they've got the sewer. At this particular point, they got about 500,000 gallons of excess capacity. I believe it's water and sewer that they can do out there, which is, to put that in perspective, for the conversation we had about Lake Monticello, just to put it in somewhat perspective, Lake Monticello uses about 500,000 gallons of water and sewer every day. Just to think of the growth that 500,000 gallons per day of water and sewer can bring.
Christopher Eagle and Johnny Ornalis follow up my sign ordinance squabble comment with both Olive Garden and Crackle Barrel, and both gentlemen are right. Albemarle County has a strict sign ordinance in place, and neither Home Depot, Olive Garden, nor Crackle Barrel were willing to wiggle on their signage, and as a result, neither of those brands are in the county.
So was that a sign ordinance or a combination of sign ordinance and an entrance corridor review? And I think it was both.
All the above.
Yeah, I believe it was
height,
both.
color, and entrance corridor.
Yeah, correct. So in fairness, all jurisdictions have some sort of sign ordinance. Depends on how restrictive it is and not.
Kevin says that is short-sighted thinking. I mean, you utilize the word morons there. He says that is short-sighted thinking.
Well, we don't point fingers, Kevin, on the shows.
But he
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on saying no to the to Home Depot, Olive Garden, and Crackle Barrel?
Well, I don't think they said no. They just made the red tape a little thick.
Right.
And and to be honest with you, they probably said if I was sitting in the boardroom having a discussion, they kind of said, okay, well, this is the path of least resistance. The numbers are saying it's growing. They're business friendly.
Yeah, let's go to Waynesboro.
That's where we're going. But the reason I asked you the question, do you go over to Waynesboro at all? Even though I live on the east side of town, I actually go to Waynesboro's Lowe's or Home Depot. And the reason I do that is...
Over Zion's Crossroads?
Well, the reason if I know Lowe's and Zion's Crossroads has what I need, that's where I'll go. But sometimes, you look on your trusty iPhone or Android or whatever it is, and it says they have something, but they really don't have it. Then I know I can go across the street to Home Depot or vice versa, and that my chances increase I can get it. Plus, we stop and get a little lunch there, and then we swing on home through Crozet and get a little ice cream over at Crozet Creamery, because any opportunity to get a little Crozet Creamery, I take that opportunity.
Johnny Ornalis, good stuff from Johnny. Kevin Higgins, no need to apologize. You've made the program fantastic.
Oh, no, Kevin, please.
Yeah, King of Greenwood makes the show great.
No.
You were A+, and you should make the show, Kevin Higgins, fantastic. Constant.
Never, ever have to apologize, ever.
Yeah. Johnny Ornalis says, I used to work for a sign company with
that's
Olive
right.
Garden. They did not like the colors of the grapes. And that's why Olive Garden is not in Albemarle County.
Well, hold it. Isn't like grape, like you got two colors really, right?
Purple or red?
You got a white grape.
I guess you got a green grape.
You got a green grape.
You got a purple grape.
Purple grape.
Red grape.
I don't know. I usually...
What color grapes are we missing here? You got a white grape, right?
Well,
is there white grapes?
I don't know. I just drink the stuff. So.
I don't think... Is there a white grape?
Yeah.
There's a white grape?
I think so.
Judah, 3 shot.
Well, I know there's a white raisin.
We're gonna go to our research department.
We got research.
Let's go to the research department on the 3 shot, please. If we can get the 3 shot and we can show you doing the research. You're saying there's a white grape? There's a white grape?
I'm pretty sure there is. Yeah.
There's a white grape?
I mean,
there's a green grape.
Well, it may
a red grape.
It
There's
may
a
not
purple
be
grape.
white like this piece of paper that I'm holding, but I believe they call that a white grape. But, what the
Research
hell do I know?
department.
Research
Who's
department.
the head of the research department, Keith?
This is from
Liza.
This is from
Liza.
WebMD. Grapes come in many colors, including green, red, black, yellow, pink, and purple.
All right.
White grapes
Smith
are
is
actually
wrong.
green.
White grapes are actually green, he says. That's WebMD.
Okay, well that makes sense.
Research department. Tell us again the colors. What do you got, research department again?
Here's 28 types of grape color from
28.
I have 28.
Simplicable.
Wow.
What are they?
Oh, let's
So
see.
Johnny, what color did they want to have, and what did they have a
I
problem?
think these are
with?
just color palettes.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
J.O., what color did Albemarle County insist? Can you a county, a jurisdiction insisting a brand like Olive Garden change their sign?
So the funny thing about that, and
Think about how
and
presumptuous that is.
Well, I have to dig into this a little bit more. So what I'm about to say may be wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway, whatever that means. But generally, these are appointed boards, right? This color of the sign, if it's went through like a BAR or an ARB or Architectural Review Board or entrance corridor board, generally it's not staff. Staff helps them, right? But it's kind of like the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission I sit on, right? There's multiple people in it, so it's interesting on who gets to make that call. We should look into that a little bit more. What comprises these boards?
And I got some firsthand experience
And that's the reason
with the Macklin building.
That's the reason I brought that up. So
It was brutal.
I know it was brutal, but who were you talking to? Was it the city
I
or
have
was
to look
it?
at the notes. I think it was the was it ARB?
Well, that would be BAR, I believe.
BAR
They
is what it
call it
was.
in Charlottesville. So those by and large
Dude,
are,
it was brutal.
but they're not elected. They're not elected. I believe they're not anyway.
I think it might be volunteer.
Well, no, you get appointed, right?
Okay.
You get appointed.
You sure?
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
a board like that is an appointed board. It's like how I sit on the Planning District Commission, right? I'm an appointed member from Fluvanna County, the Fluvanna County Board of Supervisors.
And it made it worse.
They may not want to do it any longer, but
It made it worse because it was downtown.
Correct, so you're in the downtown corridor.
Historic district,
Yeah, yeah.
downtown
So-
corridor.
So in fairness, there are rules, written rules that they need to follow, but who interprets those rules are not elected officials.
Well, here's a good follow-up from Jason Howard. Thank you for this information, gentlemen. If Albemarle County residents wanted to cut down the lead time for projects here, would the building code need to change, or would leadership need to change?
So,
That's a good question.
well, let's pick that apart a little bit. So there's two parts to it. The first part is, can you read the question again?
Would the building code need to change, or would leadership need to change if they wanted to cut down the lead time of new projects and new housing development?
So, so what we're referring to is not necessarily building codes. So building codes, so just to get this clarity on that, is run by the state, right? The state says these are your building codes, which is actually connected to a national level. So that's, fire code, all that kind of great stuff. I think the reference is the ordinances, right? So these are things that the local jurisdictions can cover, right? Which is the conversation we've been having about turning red tape into green tape, right? So can you, and it's not even changing the rules, it's just expediting it. So for those who may or may not know, I belong to a national cohort for affordable housing, particularly around auxiliary dwelling units, put out by Portland State and UW, University of Washington, out there. And what they have adopted out there is if you meet the criteria for, let's say, housing affordability, affordable housing, or certain criteria, they actually expedite the application through it. There's a very defined checklist. The other thing they do, which we have staffing issues here, they actually appoint one person to an application. And that's sometimes what happens. I can tell you on a personal, when you did this sign out front,
The awning.
and
the branding.
how many different employees, staff people, or
For us in this building?
no, when you did that sign,
Yeah.
was there a lot of rotation of staff folks and folks on the board? In other words, were you dealing with different people
Oh, yeah.
periodically?
Yeah, so we had Robert and Cecilia.
Turnover is the word I'm looking for.
Robert and Cecilia of Formworks, the architectural firm.
Yeah.
So we hired, helped lead the charge. All right, long story short, background. Macklin Building, where this studio is,
Came out nice, by the way.
thank you. We did a massive exterior remodel.
Mhm.
We took down awnings. We changed the color of the building from like a ugly beige to a very now modern blue-gray.
Yeah, looks good.
Took down the front awning and put down a nice, sexy awning, changed the name, put some branding up, and we contracted an architectural firm, Formworks, to do it. Own a good chunk of this building, and I'm the president of the building, and had to go through this, and it took us years to do. There was multiple people involved, so there was not much institutional memory. And we also had a lot of costs to get to the finish line associated with the architect's time of leading the charge, plus the free time we donated as board members to the cause. So it was not a pleasant experience.
Sorry, I'm smiling about the texts that are coming in.
It was not a pleasant experience. And I would not encourage anyone to, I mean, I guess you had to do this. This is what
Well,
remodeling,
So
the cost of doing business, I
well,
guess.
so that's where I wanted to go. How much do you think that added to the,
Oh, a boatload.
not including your time, right?
I mean, mine was donating.
Well, but your time is worth something.
Oh, undoubtedly.
And so it's interesting. The reason I'm smiling is I love the show. So I've got, so Nick Erpy knows that I'm not watching the show as we're talking. So he's sending me screenshots of the show.
Don't distract him, Nicholas Erpy. That's what he's doing right now.
Well, the great picture's interesting, but yeah. He's distracting me.
It was a brutal experience.
Yeah. Squirrel.
Now, the good thing about it is, once the remodel was done, for new tenants that came into the building, we utilized the new improvements of the building to say, hey, the building has more value, so rents went up. Rents went up 8%.
Yeah, but they were going up 8% no matter what.
I'd still think from a rent standpoint, we're underpriced.
Yeah.
And that's why we have a waiting list.
But the point I was trying to make is where red tape turns into green tape. So look, we're in an industry, I'm in an industry where the time of great unpleasantness prior to that, the rules were pretty light and loose, right? And guess what happened? So rules are good. Having a clear path, a regulatory path. Can you imagine what would be happening right now if we were back in 2003, 2004, 2005? What would be happening right now if this cup of coffee would get approved for $1 million loan?
I agree with that. We also need to emphasize that the time of great unpleasantness, also known as the 2008, 2009, 2010 real estate depression or recession.
Depression is a better choice of words.
Was caused by sketchy,
but why was it caused?
Dishonest behavior tied to financing of homes.
I got it, but it was allowed to happen.
It was allowed to happen.
That's the key thing here, right?
It's a fine line. There's a fine line between too much regulation and the regulation that helps optimize a process.
So that's the point I'm trying to drive here, right? And is that having rules and having regulations is not a bad thing, right? Otherwise everybody would drive 120 miles an hour down Market Street, right?
Signage, a new awning. I'll put it this way. A new awning, new branding, and new painting of a building, and doing some TLC to a building should not run 6 figures.
Exactly right. So the problem with that is, with government, it tends to go from one extreme to another.
Yes.
Right? So it went from the extreme of nothing, right, of as far as lending goes, to a point where if you were the good Lord himself, you couldn't get a loan. Now, they've kind of eased that back a little bit and all this kind of great stuff. And I get asked this question all the time. I got it asked, where was I yesterday?
The unfortunate aspect of this is these costs, when it comes down to it, are passed down. They are passed down costs.
So again, if there was an extra 50, how much extra you think it cost you to get this front done?
I'd say all the front.
Yeah.
40 to 50K.
Yeah, I was going to say 50 grand.
Unnecessary 40 to 50K.
That makes a lot of, not including your time.
Yeah.
Got it. So that has to be, because it's an HOA in here, a condo in here.
That's right.
That gets passed along to the condo members. Everybody's going to have to pay.
Even more, it gets passed down to the folks that are renting from the owners of the condos.
So they're getting hit twice. So the condo fees are going to have to go up a little bit. Plus, like, my point is if that 50 grand wasn't going to happen, then probably the condo fees would be a little bit more cost effective, I would think.
Yeah.
On that end of it. But look, regulatory oversight is not a bad thing. It's funny. I watched the movie Coda last night.
Mm-hmm.
Because Yona and I like movies, and so we were watching that. So, of those who do not know, it's Children of Deaf Adults. That's what the CODA stands for. And one who is hearing impaired. I took this as a little, it was a very interesting movie to watch. But there was a portion in the movie where this family, they were fishing out of Gloucester, Massachusetts. And there was an interesting thing that nobody was really talking about. So they ended up becoming over-regulated, and they couldn't survive. They couldn't feed their family. And they decided to open up their own business, which was really cool. And the essence of the story was that, maybe I shouldn't give it away, but
no spoilers.
Yeah. So I'll leave it alone. It's a great movie. Please watch it. I was in tears at the end of the movie. It won Best Movie for a very good reason in the Academy Awards. I think it was after the slap.
For those that are asking here, I would 100% do the remodel again.
Well, I
would multiple saying. So yeah, people are saying here on multiple pages that you wouldn't do this again. I would 100% do it again.
Because it's good business, right?
It's good business.
It's good business, right? It turned a building
that needed love.
That's exactly the right word.
into a sexy building on an important
I
quarter.
wasn't going to say sexy.
Yeah, into an appealing building on an
Yeah.
important quarter.
You're 100% right. So you did it, but that 50 grand is being passed along to somebody,
Yeah, it's
right? So that 50 grand is costing somebody something, right? And that 50 grand is costing rent. It's costing HOA fees, which whoever your tenants are, if I'm one of their clients, it's costing me more money. So it's a regressive process. It just gets worse and worse and
trickles
worse.
down.
It trickle down economics.
Yeah, it trickles down.
but-
now, for those that are asking how long it'll take for us to, and I'm seeing it here, how long it'll take for that to be made up, not long. 8% increase on my chunk of that. You're talking like 12, 13 months here.
Well, I think you're doing yourself a injustice, by not calculating your time in there.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's going to do a remodel of something they own, it's cost of doing business. It's the cost of doing the business.
I understand that, but there is a loss of revenue for something else. There's a loss of time.
Well, I mean, it's opportunity cost.
Well, there's a loss of
Yeah.
time with your beautiful son and your
Yeah.
beautiful daughter, because I know how this wife. I know how this works, because you were at meetings late at night.
Oh, 100%. Zoom meetings, 100%.
Yeah.
The alternative, though, is additional costs. And also the alternative is some lack of control.
I got to tell you,
And neither I was willing to do.
I've seemed to say this every Tuesday. I love our little Tuesday shows where it's just you and I. I usually walk away from these shows a whole bunch smarter and learning something. I did not know that the other side of the mountain was at this 30+% difference between commercial versus rooftop. So that's a really cool thing I learned, and it makes me want to dig a little further into it. But you're going to start seeing, I think you're going to start seeing the market changing a little bit at the end of this year, the beginning of next year, getting a little bit more balance. I think the trend is kind of coming that way a little bit. I think the volumes are going to be way off, is what I'm thinking and what I'm listening to. I don't think you're going to see, and I may be wrong, I think you're going to start seeing the volume of sales drop down a little bit overall. Year over year, we shall see. But we're going to be keeping a pretty close track on this stuff.
Amen. Well said. Dot the I's and cross the T's. J.O. Johnny Ornalis, the Albemarle County jurisdiction works on Pantone colors. On Pantone colors, and it was the specific Pantone that Olive Garden with their grapes had that was not approved.
And as one who's in this industry, right? This is
Branding. Wonderful.
Branding, right? Color is a big thing, right?
I mean, Olive Garden is not going to change their sign for Albemarle County.
That is not going to happen.
Albemarle County will rather say F you and leave.
Well,
and change it for a tiny county in Virginia. I guess not tiny, but a county in Virginia.
That gets it. That's doing 30% of that.
They just go somewhere else.
They're going to go somewhere else.
So will Home Depot. So will Crackle Barrel. Kevin Yancey adds, Albemarle County denied Hooters because their business model was detrimental to the moral standards of Albemarle County.
Yeah, I wasn't part of that Reddit. I'll take that on face value. But
Daniel McDougall, the signage along the 29 quarter is unmitigated disaster. It could not be less appealing. Paul McCarter, unelected bureaucrats are the worst part of government overreach. Multiple folks are saying the process is closed-minded. And yes, Jennifer, if the red tape associated with our building remodel was not so stringent, the rents would undoubtedly be lower right now.
So that's the point. That's the driving point in here. That is causing that end of it. But again, some regulation is good, right? Because sometimes the market can go nuts. Sometimes we all lived through that. Well, most of us lived through this the last time it happened, but it needs to be wind down a little bit. But what's going to happen? These developers, these builders, these businesses. This isn't rocket science, guys. Right? This is not neurosurgery. They're going to go where the path of least resistance is, where the numbers point them to, and at the moment it's the other side of the mountain. And I'll make a bit of a prediction here. If some of this mentality gets sucked up around Zion's Crossroads, you won't see that kind of growth in Zion's Crossroads because they just won't go there.
Right.
They'll just go further down the road. Even with gas at approaching $4 to whatever we are plus dollars per gallon.
Today was good.
Are you driving less now because of that? Are you?
No.
Yeah. At some point, it's going to have an impact, and I'm not really sure when that impact comes.
I will change that. I am pretty direct with my driving normally. I go to and from work, where I play, racket sports.
Sure.
And back.
We have been, as long as we've been doing the show, Yona and I, and it's just something we do. We sync up our calendars, right? And we try to take one vehicle in, right? We did that this morning, right? I dropped Yona off at the office, took Yvonne to the airport, and then I drove over here. So we try to, but we historically have been doing that. My question is I'm wondering out in the feed, and this may be a kickoff, and you probably are tackling this on your noon show, on your 12:30 show. Are you starting to change your buying habits because of gas and inflation? Right?
Buying habits meaning what? Types of cut of meat you're getting at the grocery store?
Going out less. I sure as hell ain't seeing that.
Well, I will say this. We're seeing potentially some stabilization and Lee Elberson, we'll get to your comment here on LinkedIn very shortly.
Simplify, Marine.
Ukraine and Russia potentially de-escalating with some peace talks. Today we saw some very positive performance data associated with oil and gas prices dropping. We saw some positive performance data associated with
but not inflation.
Unemployment. Inflation, I think, is going to be here to stay.
It ain't transitory.
Yeah, it's definitely not transitory. The bulls are running strongly. All the indices have been extremely green over the last, 8 to 10 days. We're recouping a lot of the losses suffered throughout Q1, which is positive. So we're starting to see some bullish trends with the economy, which is good. I think inflation is here to stay. I think cost of goods.
Well, it's not here for stay. I think inflation is here to stay for a projected. Go ahead, give me this word. Projected.
I think these
protracted period of time. I can speak English.
I'll rephrase. I think these price points are here to stay. I don't see.
No, gas will come down. Yeah, if a barrel of oil starts dropping,
it's dropped below 100.
Yeah, it takes some time to filter down to the pump.
So you think this year we start seeing low threes again?
No, I think you're going to see oil bounce up and down, bounce up and down, bounce up and down. The reality of it is, for those who may not know, but I lived in that part of the world for a half a decade, for 6 years, so I kind of understand the mentality in that part of the world on that end of it. And I'm talking about Ukraine and Russia and all that stuff. To go back to the Ukraine thing, I think ultimately you're going to probably end up with some sort of DMZ kind of setup over there, some sort of line through Ukraine, right, wrong, or indifferent, but I think that's what's going to happen. One side will be Russian, one side will be Ukraine, and there'll be some sort of security arrangement between Ukraine and the United States and NATO. They won't go into NATO and that end of it. I may be wrong, but that seems, based on a little bit I know in that part of the world, where it's going to end up. Henceforth, why I think things are starting to stabilize on that end of it. But the reality of it is inflation isn't going down, right? Inflation typically takes out food and fuel, right? Which I think is ridiculous. What are you spending most of your money on?
Food and fuel.
Food and fuel.
I mean, you got, and this is definitely a topic for another show, and I know you have a 12 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I know you have a 12 o'clock coming up. Lee Elberson on LinkedIn, Americans will change their driving behavior because that's an easy change, but changing home buying decisions is a much more long-term decision, and thus less likely to be deterred by short-term fluctuations of gas prices.
You know what? And I tend to agree with them.
Oh, yeah,
and the
100%.
data, everything
And he's looking at buying a home right now.
and all the data
He and his wife.
all the data we're digging into it over years is exactly saying the same stuff.
Yeah. There's
We've been looking at it since 19. You and I.
when it comes
2019.
down to it, guys, it stinks to say this, but your assessments, our assessments, all of our assessments are through the roof. Our personal property taxes, we're going to feel a serious sting.
Yeah, that's something, we're talking about it here, but nobody else is. Really
No one is talking about this. You're going to get your bill and you're going to open it up and say, how in the hell
Yeah.
are my personal property taxes 25% higher?
So to tell you a little bit about this, to tell you where it's going to go, and it's because of, I think, the lack of chips and new cars and all this kind of great stuff, which is like,
Well, that's definitely why.
yeah.
Yeah.
My son-in-law out in Seattle has a used GTI, Volkswagen GTI. My daughter was telling me, and I'm probably shouldn't be telling you this, but I am anyway, has been offered from the Volkswagen dealer $10,000 more than he bought it if he brought it in and handed it to them.
I got contacted by the Ford dealer on a 2020 Ford Explorer Platinum and was offered $11,000
More than you paid for it.
than I paid for.
More than you paid for it. And it's exactly the same thing.
$11,000 more than I paid for, and I've driven the car for 2 years in July.
And I think this car's a little older than that. It's approaching 3 years.
Literally.
Now, they don't need two. They're living in Seattle. They don't need two cars. He just happens to love his GTI, and I'm not so sure of it. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Sounds like I'm not telling anybody what to do. Oh, I should sell that right there.
My advice would be to do that. But I know I'm in good.
My situation's a little different.
I know I'm in good shape because she's middle of a plane halfway across in the middle somewhere.
Your wife is.
Yeah. She'll give me up. But the point is, there's an opportunity. Look, if they can do that and put $25K in, I don't know what the number is. Let's call it that.
On a house.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
That's exactly right. They
Because-
can't do it in Seattle, right?
No, because eventually the car market's going to stabilize. They're going to figure out the supply chain shortages. They're going to stabilize, and then the prices are going to go back to
But the
they're
reason
going to drop.
the reason I bring it up now is this property tax
Right.
thing is based on this overinflated. Talk about something that is overinflated and about ready to blow up. It's not housing.
We got a used car bubble.
That's exactly.
It's a used car bubble.
And all these people are borrowing money 0%. Well, it's not at 0% now, but some of them are on 6 years, 5 years. I think there's even an 8-year product out there on a car that, well, all of a sudden if things implode, you're going to be upside down when it's time to do that. That's where the bubble
And those
is.
of us that bought the cars in the beginning of the COVID pandemic, they gave the cars away to us.
But honey, that
They were
doesn't.
so desperate. They gave us the cars.
But honey, that doesn't apply to the new electric Hummer. That
No.
theory does not apply.
It does not. Or Teslas.
Because I want one.
The Tesla is on a 4-month turnaround.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Literally 4 months.
But the point is what you're.
Keith, when I got that Explorer, I won't say the dealership, it was a local dealership. Well, I can say it, I'm not knocking them. Okay, it was Malloy.
Well, it's
they-
a Ford. It's not much of a
It was
stretch.
Malloy. They were giving the cars away
Sure.
during the early parts of the pandemic.
That's exactly right.
They're like, here's a car, we will negotiate with you, drop it below
And
MSRP,
finance it for 100 years at 0%.
give you no interest
Yeah.
financing on this car.
Sure.
Thousands of dollars below MSRP and no interest for years.
But to wrap that around this personal property tax, and nobody's talking about this. That's going to hit people in the pocketbook big time because there's really no. What happens to a vehicle once you drive it off the
It usually
lot?
depreciates about 30%.
About 30%, and that's not happening now.
No, it's going the other way.
Yeah, which is weird.
So crazy.
But look,
You gotta go.
You've got another show.
Jo says, I feel this is kind of how I feel, Johnny Ornelas. He says, I feel this is the new normal. When gas spiked in the late 90s, folks said it would drop and it never did. Folks said food costs in the late 90s would drop and it never did.
Yeah.
He thinks these are the new prices. I think these are the new prices.
Johnny, I love you to death, and you know that. It's not going to. drop down to $1.50 or $1.25 a gallon, but it'll drop down. It'll drop. The competition will force it to do that. Somebody,
How badly do you have to pee?
pretty bad, as you can tell.
Me too. So does Jude.
As you can tell, I was trying to wrap up the show at 11:30.
God, we're
So
gonna
from
sprint- we're
11:30,
gonna sprint.
but there are two bathrooms. We'll have to flip who gets the ladies' room for this one
Put the
around.
seat down.
Can we wrap up because this is getting bad.
Judith, Keith, Jerry, Real Talk, Yes Realty Partners. We love you guys.
Yeah, we love you guys.
Great show.
Bath break, pee break.
You guys have a good one. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Tell us when we're clear.
You first.